Welcome to Powering Through Life, the podcast. I'm your host, Teresa Sims. I am a coach, an author, wife, mom, survivor, and thriver. Each week on Powering Through Life, my guest and I will discuss a special topic that is close to their heart. Together, we will explore the challenges they've faced in life and learn what strategies and tools they have used to power through their lives. So get ready to be inspired, motivated, and let's motivate the world through conversation. Welcome once again to Powering Through Life.
Thank you.
Today I have an amazing guest with me today. Her name is Jenna Kedy. Did I say that right, Jenna?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Jenna is 18 years old and she's from Halifax, Nova Scotia. She's a chronic illness warrior and awareness advocate. Her diagnosis is, well, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to let Jenna explain that. So anyway, Jenna is also very passionate about education and spreading awareness around the disorder that she has. And aside from being the chronically ill queen, mind you, you're very young to be a queen, but we'll go with it. She's also a cheerleader and a 2022 ICU World Champion in the Adaptive Abilities Division. Congratulations, Jenna. That's fantastic. And welcome to Powering Through Life. I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you.
So your topic today that you've chose is around your chronic illness journey.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you give the listeners a good idea and background around what it is you've experienced and how it's affected you?
So I have a few chronic illnesses. So my journey kind of started at birth. I always had some weird symptoms through childhood. I had rashes when I was a baby and it was brushed off. My mom was kind of weirded out by it. I was very good though with my milestones. I learned to walk, jump, talk, do all those things normally, so there's no concern there. But I definitely was a very clumsy kid. I was always falling down more than my peers, as well as I had the highest pain tolerance, and my mom babysat for 10 years and had never met a child with a pain tolerance as tough as mine. So that was definitely concerning, and my hands were always puffy, but she was told that was because I was growing. So it was nothing to be worried about. So we didn't worry about it. My mom kind of kept humming and hawing at the family doctor. And I was basically babysat by my grandparents until I started grade primary, so kindergarten and school. And then when I went to Durham City, which was public elementary school, I was sick probably every other week. And I was hit a lot harder than my classmates were. My mom would chat with their parents. I was hit so much harder and it was so confusing. So she would always mention to the doctor, she thought that maybe I had low immunity or something wrong health-wise. I went to pediatricians and I was always told that I was good to go. So then when I was in grade 6, I got very sick with a flu that we're still not really sure what to put a name on it. And I had very bad swelling, rashes, the whole 9 yards. I was the sickest I'd probably ever been up to that point in my life. So my mom took me to the emergency room like you do a few times. And every time I went in, they were like, oh, there's a really bad flu going around, this, that, whatever. It's just rest, take antibiotics, do everything. And I ended up having to make probably a handful of trips to ER throughout that month until the one doctor finally decided that it was a good idea to refer me upstairs to the pediatric rheumatology clinic. And when I went to the rheumatology clinic, they took my symptoms very seriously, as that's our expertise, and they were very concerned by it. So I had to go get a lot of blood work done, x-rays, every test you could probably think of, especially in blood work. And at the time I was 11, so I couldn't really comprehend what all these big names that all these doctors were saying were. But now that I am an adult and hopefully a parent one day and I work with kids, I can't even imagine the feelings that my mom must have felt in those moments of them saying big scary names for what her child could have. So I definitely feel for her during that time. But then they came to the conclusion after lots of trial and error of tests that they diagnosed me with juvenile enthesitis-related arthritis. And so juvenile arthritis is a huge umbrella with over 100 types of arthritis, which I think people are very unaware of. And my type is called enthesitis-related, which is actually more common in boys than girls, and it's a pretty rare form. And basically that means that my joints are affected, as well as my tendons, as well as I have some arthritis in my bowel, which a lot of people also are not aware that that is a thing that can exist.
Sorry, did you say your bowel?
I have arthritis of the bowel. as well as IBS. So it's a fun cocktail, but a lot of people have never heard of that. And so my journey kind of started. I had to see a lot of doctors, started lots of medication, and it was like really hard. And then when I was 14, I experienced quite a bit of back pain, and my rheumatologist thought it was because of my arthritis, so she thought physio would be helpful. So I did outpatient physio, and that like didn't help at all, even though the team there was really good. It just didn't help. So then I went under some x-rays, MRIs, everything like that. And I did a pressure point test and I ended up being diagnosed with juvenile fibromyalgia, which is a neurological chronic pain disorder. And I was 14 at the time, so I still don't know that many people to date that have that. But I was diagnosed with that, and that was even more confusing because when I was diagnosed with arthritis, there was a lot of support for me in the community, even a summer camp in my province of beautiful Nova Scotia that is just made for chronic illness, and they do a week every year for arthritis that I was able to go to. There was lots of events and support for my arthritis through Cassie and Friends and Arthritis Society. And then when I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, there was like nothing. There's like no very minimal resources, even like almost like I'm going into I think year 4, year 5 of being diagnosed, and there's still not that much available, like support wise. So it can be really tough sometimes.
Absolutely. I know I experienced fibromyalgia and was diagnosed, as we discussed, back in 1992. And you're right, there isn't a lot known. And that's for adults. I can't imagine what you're experiencing at your age and how tough that was. And
Yeah,
how, because I know fibro can make you feel like you've got the flu. It can make you feel like you've got a massive headache. It can make you feel like your body just wants to stop and leave the planet, kind of thing, and leave
absolutely.
you, the rest of you there, kind of issue. How did you cope with things like that? How did you manage daily getting
So it
through all
was
that
really
stuff?
So it was really, really hard at first, especially when I was so young and I was a teenager. So I was becoming a teenager when I was had all this thrown on me. So being a teenager is not easy for anybody. I think everyone has a rough time in junior high, but then having all this added on, like the best way I can describe it is I was a hot mess express for a long time. I was in and out of doctors. I was just trying to figure it out. But one thing that I will say was the hardest, like all my symptoms were really difficult. But the thing that I tell everyone, like the hardest part of being chronically ill, even as an adult, but especially as a teenager, was trying to explain it to other people. Whether it was my peers, which I get because they couldn't comprehend it either. I couldn't fully comprehend my diagnoses to explain them. So all these other teenagers that weren't going through it, they had no idea. They made judgments because that was just what they knew. But then when you come to like, they'd go home and talk to their parents about it, and their parents would say things that weren't always the kindest or the most informed. So it would be kind of rough. And also just like going about life, even like have been lucky to have a lot of teachers who supported me a lot, but there was a handful of teachers here and there who were very hard on me through this journey, and it was hard because I was navigating junior high and new schools and high school, and then some teachers were great and some just were not and didn't want to make the extra mile to help me be able to be successful in school.
It's amazing when you have a good supportive team around you. It's amazing what you can accomplish despite
Mhm.
whatever's trying to hold you back. And,
Exactly.
how did you manage to do your cheerleading career with this?
So I have always been a very active person throughout my entire life. I danced as a kid. I was a theater kid. Like I was very involved in that stuff. I always really wanted to do cheer because when I was in grade 5, my next door neighbor, who's like my best friend, joined, and I started going to competitions to watch her. And I just thought that it was so amazing. Like I love dance. I love gymnastics. Like I wanted to be there, but I didn't join then because it was very financially expensive and not something my family could do at the time. So I stayed like in recreational dance and recreational gymnastics, and I loved doing it. But I always found like when I was a kid, like I think about it now, like I honestly don't know how I did it. Like I was so active in gym class and gymnastics and all those things when I was a kid, and I had unmedicated arthritis for 11 years, so no wonder I found it a little bit trickier than the other kids my age. But I still kept on doing it. So then when I was like in grade 6, like my arthritis was so bad and my first diagnosed that I remember the trampoline park opened up in Halifax and I wasn't even allowed to go. So sad. And then about like I want to say 3 years after that, I was able to join cheer because we were able to financially figure out how to do it at my family, and I joined it and I just kind of kept started doing it, and I just never stopped. And I was at a point with my medication, definitely hard. There is harder days than others, but I was able to work with my coaches and just do it. And it's hard to explain to people how I do it because it is very, very difficult, and it takes a lot of strength in your mind and like staying in that mindset. But I feel like I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I love cheer so much. It's like a limb to me. Like I won't be leaving it for a long time, even though I'm an adult. So
Well, good for you, because that's probably
yeah.
keeping you strong and healthy and keeping your mindset going. It's giving you those endorphins that you need to combat the pain and all that
Yeah.
other aspect that goes along with it. So, was there a big fear from your mom when you were starting into cheer that there was going to be injuries?
So my mom was a little bit nervous, as any parent would be, as cheer is probably one of the most high risk sports that you could pick. But she never really wanted to hold me back from it because it was something that I was so passionate about. So she wasn't really worried injury wise. Sometimes she was worried at times because like I was just in pain a lot and stuff. But we really do find that it does help me out a lot to do other things in my life, because not only does cheer provide sports and athleticism, but it's also provided me with like teamwork skills, discipline, resilience, as well as having like a family to back me up. And that, I think, has really helped me out a lot throughout all of my chronic illness stuff. So that's why I was able to keep doing it.
Oh yeah, the support you get must be just incredible
Yeah.
with your team, and it's probably like a second family.
Yeah, it really is. Like the people you meet through cheerleading are like the best people that you ever have. And they're like your sisters, your brothers, your second moms.
That's incredible. And I'm so happy that you're able to do this. I know when we have these things, to have someone say to you, no, you really can't do that because you have this. That's so defeating to the mindset and the individual's will and internal strength, isn't it?
Hmm.
What is there some if there's a young lady listening to this, young student who is being held back or being not fully developed into her own personal power and abilities, what pieces of advice would you give to this person?
I think you just kind of have to do what makes you happy, because you got to consider that you're only going to be on this earth for a snapshot of time, and you might as well do the things that make you happiest and spend time around people that support that. And even if you have to spend time around negative people, because sometimes we're obligated to do so just because of our life, I'd say try to like block it out as much as possible and fill your own self with positivity.
That's fantastic. So you feel in your world and in your life that the consequences are not as heavily weighed as the benefits of doing
For
cheer and
sure.
being active. So there's,
Absolutely.
yeah, ton of benefits behind it, isn't there? And I'm sure that you are working with your support staff, your doctors and everything to make sure that you're in a safe place, you're good. And I imagine the minute something goes wrong, they're going to say to you, hey, wait a minute, Jenna, hold on for a second, right?
Absolutely. Like when I told my pediatric rheumatologist that I joined cheerleading, she was very happy about it, because she has, from the minute I was diagnosed, always told me that I need to stay very active, and being a part of something that's routine and organized where I'd have a big support system, she was very happy about it.
Do you think that you have advanced farther in your recovery and your maintenance, I guess, not recovery, but maintenance of your arthritis than someone else your age that's been held back?
I'd like to say yes and no. Like I do definitely know people who it's not even just their family, but it's like themselves. Like they might have not have spent a lot of time on activities and stuff, and they don't really have that motivation to do so, which is unfortunate. Even if their doctors want them to be active, it might not just interest them, or it might find it too hard. So they might not be as like wanting to do it as me. And obviously I don't want anyone to do anything that they don't find joy in and don't like really want to do. But also, like, I feel like in a sense, I'm also held back a little bit because I'm not in remission. And most people my age, 17, 18-year-olds, like, if you meet anybody out in the world with pediatric arthritis, it's so common that when you're 17, 18, you will go into remission for a number of years until you're like an older adult. And that's like not happening for me. And that's very unfortunate, because I do have to take still a lot of medication and I still have symptoms. So it's hard. I wish I could just not have them, but even though remission is not possible, I'm not going to make that stop me from doing things that make me happy.
So do they feel, and this is going to be, don't mind me, do they feel you will not go into remission then?
Yes.
Oh.
There's always a chance that it will happen, but with the form of arthritis that I have, it's very rare that it will, but it's hard to say, but at this point, probably not.
Oh, that's unfortunate. But you know what?
Yeah.
It is. But you're managing so well. You make it look so easy.
It's definitely far from that, but
Yeah.
I think that if you just put a lot of effort in, you can kind of do whatever you want. You just got to have the drive to want to be successful.
Excellent. Well put. So, Jenna, do you have some resources that you wanted to share with the listeners about chronic illness?
So I think that Arthritis Society of Canada is a very good resource just for arthritis specifically, whether you are a patient caregiver or you are someone that wants to learn about arthritis. I think they provide a lot of really good, strong education as well. Even on their website, they have a chunk of education on fibromyalgia. People want to learn a little bit more. As well as Cassie and Friends, and they're just in Canada, and their society just for pediatric arthritis. So they just focus on us.
How do you spell that? Cass?
It's CASSIEANDFRIENDS, Cassie and Friends.
Okay,
As well as True Faces, which is TRUFACES, and I'm an ambassador with them, and they're a disability advocacy group on social media, and we also have a blog, and we promote a lot of stuff on chronic illness specifically and all disabilities, and it's a great way to learn new things. And if you are someone with a disability or chronic illness, you can find resources and meet people that may have similar situations to you.
That's fantastic. And I do want you, do I have all of those links? Did you send them to me,
Yeah,
Jenna?
I sent the links, yeah.
That's fantastic because I will be including those links with your recording.
For sure.
I think it's important that we share this information out there. And
For
I know
sure.
Jenna is, you're so passionate about this. And I feel the need to help contribute. And that's why we're doing this. We need to create awareness around juvenile arthritis and chronic illness and
100%.
Fibromyalgia. It's debilitating on certain days, especially like Ontario today, right where I am. We have a bit of an off day. It's kind of rainy. So yesterday and today, the fibro symptoms are kicking in a little bit more.
For
so
sure.
You need to, do you not feel that you need to plan or give yourself some grace if you're having one of these days and you can't accomplish what you want 100%?
I find I'm struggling, like I'm working on that. Like I definitely struggle a lot because I am 18 and I'm very driven and I want to do everything. And sometimes I can't do anything in the day. And I often get very depressed because of it, but I'm working on staying in a good mindset and just saying that, you know what, like the bad days make the good days feel even better.
Absolutely. And that is fantastic. So when you have a bad day, Jenna, give me a snapshot of what you do to help yourself get out of that.
When I have a bad day, sometimes you literally physically can't get yourself out of it. So I really just like to lay in my bed and have like heat and stuff. But if it's a bad day where I feel like I can function, I just try to take it easier than normal and not like go hard at it, which is something I also struggle with because I definitely sometimes push myself very, very hard because I just want to do everything and I want to be normal, and it's still something I struggle with so much.
I understand that totally. I know when you have been given these limitations, if you want to call them that, or issues.
Yeah.
I don't know what to call. I experience the same thing every day of my life too, and have from the day I was born as well. You spend your entire life proving to everyone that
Absolutely.
You're not that. But you know what? It's to ourselves we need to prove it to, that we are whole, we're human, and that, okay, we're not 100% perfect. Who is? And I don't even know what perfect means anymore.
For
that
sure.
That word is just, should be gone. But anyway, so what advice would you give to people with chronic illness, new people that are being diagnosed or that are experiencing it and are thinking they may have some of the symptoms of it?
My thing is that if you feel like you have the symptoms, act now. Like, be your own advocate. Go to the doctors. Like, be like, like push for them to do something, because I definitely know in like Canada specifically, our healthcare isn't like, it's not $1 million healthcare. It's not perfect at by any means. So definitely if you're Canadian or you live somewhere that has a little bit struggling healthcare, push to get your needs met. I know not every country is fortunate to have free access like we are, but if you are in Canada, like push for the doctors to do the tests and get your answers, because you deserve to have a name for what you're dealing with if it can be found and to get treated. Definitely push for that, because like you, like, even if you think like your family's going to be your advocate, your parents, especially if you're younger, like you really need to speak up and like for yourself be like, I'm struggling, like I need help, and like tell the doctors that. But I'd say if you are newly diagnosed, my thing is, if you do have your diagnosis, is to, I know it can be hard at first because it's like there's a stigma you have, or you have a big ego where you feel embarrassed or you don't want to share. Like my biggest tip is to seek out as many resources as possible in your community or like around, because even if you don't think that you're not going to like it, you may find one or two friends through it that will really support you, because having that like support can really like backbone you through managing your life. Because I've made some of the bestest friends and have found volunteer opportunities and different things through just those resources. And I think that you were given a sucky situation, but I think you should take advantage of all the good parts that come out of it.
I totally agree. And I mean, what you're doing is you're learning. You're learning everything. You're absorbing everything you possibly can about what you've been dealt. You're taking a solid action plan to fight it, to maintain a healthy, happy life, doing the things you love. Why wouldn't you? I mean, like,
For sure.
There's people out there and younger people out there that need to hear this, Jenna, and they're listening. And I'm so impressed that you are such a role model for these people. You are well spoken, you're well educated, you are knowledgeable in what you're dealing with,
Thank you.
and you have a great presence. And I think you could make the difference in so many lives.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Do you have a favorite quote or saying that you'd like to share with the listeners?
Well, I can't cite like who it's like from because I don't remember, but something that I really like to say to myself personally is just like, do what you can and be happy with what you got.
Well, that's it. Because I mean, if you cannot cure it, there's nothing you can do about it really, other than maintain it, right? And keep living. It's when you start existing that the problems are going to kick in. It's going to create so many
Sure.
other problems, mental illness that go along hand in hand with these things, because they wait until we're delivered one of these. I don't want to use the term life sentence, but it is kind of a life sentence, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just sits there and waits. And when we're delivered these things, if we don't keep our minds strong and a good solid team around us, we can go down the drain really quickly. But we can't do that because we're trying to motivate the world through conversation, aren't we?
For sure.
Absolutely. And that's what powering through life is all about. Jenna, do you have any last comments that you would like to leave the listeners with?
My thing is, for anyone out there with chronic illness or disability, you're not alone, and there is definitely hundreds, if not millions, of people out there that are dealing with probably the same, if not similar, situation to you. So you're not alone. There's a community out there that loves you and wants you to be a part of it. And if you are not chronically ill or not disabled, I think you should hug your loved ones that are, and so try to do everything you can to be educated and support them. And even if you don't know anybody that's disabled or chronically ill, if you work out in the world, if you are out in the world, you likely will run into those people. So I think it's important to be educated and be kind as possible, because you don't know what people are going through when you're not around them.
You are amazing, lady. I am so
Thank
impressed with that, because
you.
those are the things I was taught too. You don't know what that other person that you're staring at is dealing with. You don't know what they're facing at home. You don't know
For
how they're
sure.
feeling. Kindness goes an awful long way, and
Absolutely.
understanding. And actually, I think one of the key things in this is we all know someone who has been touched by cancer, probably COVID now, some kind of chronic illness.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter what age we are, really. We're all human beings. We're put here for a purpose. And why not share the stories? why not help someone else?
Absolutely.
Jenna, what are you going to do with your future? Are you thinking about going into, say, the advocate realm, the coaching realm, the teaching?
So I do coach cheerleading, so I am a coach. But right now I'm in college. I just started college actually yesterday, and I am starting my undergrad to be a teacher, and I am mostly interested in being an elementary educator because that is what I feel passionate about. But I also volunteer with a lot of organizations. Like I volunteer at Two Faces, as well as I'm a Girl Guides leader, so I do a lot of advocacy with kids, and I work with a lot of people, and that's like my favorite thing. So I will keep advocating and spreading education as much as I can because it's something that I feel strongly about. And that's not just for my own illnesses, that's for the whole chronic illness community as a whole because I have so many friends with different things and I stand with them too and want to spread their awareness as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Good for you. And I think we're going to just shake up the world with this. Do
Absolutely.
you want our listeners to contact you?
Sure. Go for it. I love talking to people. So
Okay. Do you want to give us your email address?
my email is Kedy Jenna, so KEDYJENNA at gmail.com.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I will be sharing that as well. And you know what? Jenna has been an exceptional guest today. And Jenna, thank you so much for sharing your story around juvenile arthritis and chronic illness. And my goodness, girl, you will go far in this world. And I want to have you back in a couple of years to find out where you are, what's happening, and how things are progressing, if you're okay with that.
Thank you for sure. Thank you for
Fantastic.
having me.
Oh, I'm so pleased that we could do this. You know, I don't get a chance to interview younger people very often anymore. So that's when you approached me, I thought, this is perfect because this is a topic that really needs to be spoken about.
Absolutely, I
Definitely.
agree.
And we'll get it all shared out there. So thank you again for being a fabulous guest on Powering Through Life. And listeners, when you're searching for Powering Through Life, you can go to my website. That's teresasims.com. I have a couple Facebook pages, my own, my personal one. There's a Powering Through Life Facebook page. We have the YouTube channel, and there will be a couple other places we will be sharing Jenna's segment as well. So get on Powering Through Life, share the conversations, and let's motivate this world. And we will see you all again next time. Thanks. Thank you for listening to Powering Through Life, where we explore life's challenges and learn valuable insights from my guests about how they have powered through their lives to survive and thrive. We can learn incredible lessons by sharing and motivating the world through conversation. You can access all of the Powering Through Life episodes on my website, teresasims.com, YouTube, Facebook, and Spreaker. So join us again next time for another inspiring conversation.